from coming in.
Gotcha. Anybody have any questions on that? Elevator is going up from 1,000 to 1,500. Looks like you're over this year, a little bit over last year as well.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions?
What do we spend money on the elevator for? Or I'm just curious, because I don't know.
Well, this year, some of the electric part of it crapped out. Had to be replaced.
So this is just in case this isn't a schedule.
Well,
Yeah, no, I mean, when they break, you can't leave the kids in the elevator either.
What's your alarm system?
Right, you
Yeah.
could.
Stuck on.
Right.
If
Yeah,
you're not
but
going to have
got it.
sprinklers, you got to have a good elevator.
Yeah, whatever was happening electrically was also pinging our alarm system.
Yeah.
So it took a while to figure out.
Is there any sort of annual service that's included in this line item as
Yeah,
well? Okay.
that's based
So you have something that happens every year out of this line
Yeah.
item, and then you
Yes.
have the incidentals on top of that.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions?
Good.
Automation system, level fund, actually, no, dropping $1. It's nice. It's nice, you guys.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
look at
that.
that.
Got a better contract this year?
Is that a typo? You want to keep that at the
Yeah, let's
14.75?
make it 5.
Okay.
Well, the last 2 years' actuals were 1474.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Look at that.
Oh, yeah, that's why. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good catch, Adam. 1474
No
it
extra
is.
dollars.
No extra dollars.
Saved you money.
You have plenty, you have plenty up in
It
one.
may be all you see this year out of it.
Let's spend it all in place. Well, that can help pay for the sprinkler.
Yeah.
Okay.
$30 there.
All right, so computer. I love the name of this line
Is that
item
like-
every
is that-
time.
Is
Yeah.
that service contract or is that buying a computer?
Going from 2,000 to 1,000. Any questions?
What's that line?
That is for computers.
Thanks, guys.
We were going to replace computers last year, and we got a donation.
Nice.
Computers.
Oh, nice.
Very nice.
That went well.
It would be nice if the line item was a little bit more broad, because when we bump into things like having to upgrade software and things like that, it's hard to pull it out of computer.
Well, computer, wouldn't that be
Computer, that's like
software?
all
That would
related.
be the software, yeah, but I
Can
don't
we
know.
add the word stuff?
That would be great.
Computer type things.
MISC, computer miscellaneous.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
I don't think that you're gonna have a hard time convincing anybody that putting software into the computer line item was the wrong thing to do. So
Right.
I think you're okay.
I mean, there was some questions that came up from people. Maybe it wasn't software, but it was something. It would, I don't know. I just remember it would be nice that if this was more broad.
Those descriptors are nice to have them a little bit more, fitting to whatever you might be putting in there, because sometimes you have a new employee that needs to be coding these things and they just don't know, so. But in any case, it is your budget, and if you wanted to change the name of that line item, it's very easy to do. You can just ask the selectman's office to do that for you.
Gotcha. Okay.
Dental insurance, are we okay with this one, Jerry? Based on the
Yeah,
numbers?
that's what I provided him, yep.
Okay. Disability insurance?
Yep.
Okay. Is this a refiguring on these? Is that why?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you got the apportionment now down to where you want it. So
Hopefully.
I know some stuff has gone down quite a bit, and this one's obviously gone up quite a bit. Dental insurance using as the example. The disability looks like it's pretty flat, but. You happy with that dental insurance number?
Yeah, it's a change of plan, yep.
Okay,
Same with health.
all right. Electricity, bumping that up to 3,200 from 3,000. Health insurance,
God.
Wait,
That's a real number.
Wow.
oh,
Really?
Assuming
There's
'cause you
more
have-
people in.
That's what a family plan
A lot of
costs
it's
in town
not
these days.
Holy jeez.
oh, so you went from so you changed plans. You went from a full timer that was on something less than a family to a family plan. Okay, yeah.
Wow,
That'll do it.
sorry.
It's up.
That's
That's only
the
85%.
current number.
That's 85% of a family plan.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask
Does the
you, so
employee would pay
that's
that?
not an accidental 100%, that's the 85% number, that's the right?
Yeah.
Holy.
That's
hell.
85% of a family plan.
Wow.
Alrighty then, at some point you just self-insure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the town becomes its own insurance company. That's probably a legal battle that we don't wanna get into.
Well, I think we can legally do it, but I don't know that it would really be cost effective.
Yeah, it all depends, I guess.
Well, some towns are switching to deductible plans and partially funding the deductibles for
The
the employees.
HSAs.
Yeah.
Well, I've been talking about this for years, and I don't know why we're not looking at things like that from a selectman standpoint. I mean, we should be looking at donut hole plans and whether we, do HSAs and all of that stuff. So, because a lot of times that's where it gets you. You get this. That's the self-insure part that's affordable, is if you are providing the deductible, or at least providing the funds for the deductible. And sometimes you can just bake it into the HSA, and then they don't use it, so it just sits there for next year, and so you don't have to do it again.
With HSA and HRA,
Right.
then they have
Yeah.
different rules.
Yep. Exactly. Anyway, with numbers like that, it's time to make that a priority. But
Not the HSA, that was
Like
a-
HRA does.
yeah, you
Well,
get the
what are we
reimbursement
compared
program.
to
and
other towns with their insurance? I mean, to other,
It's the
I feel like in the business world, everyone's doing the HSA, higher deductible, blah, 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 but our other, I mean, usually government town stuff is
Your
better.
competition, or the issue is, and this goes back at least a decade and a half
Yeah,
with the school district, and we tried to sort it out there. We dealt with the unions, and then your other towns are all pretty much the same. It's very rare, it's like everybody has to move once.
right, yeah. Because we don't wanna lose everybody to another town because of
No,
the
you don't.
insurance, so
There's
that's
only a
not
few
gonna help.
carriers that towns really look at.
Oh,
And Mary did quite a bit of research last year.
yeah,
And usually what happens, and I've heard this from other towns, is you'd be jumping and switching all the way over for, a few grand this year, and then next year your savings evaporate, you change all that, everyone gets mad, and so you'd have to look at drastic changes.
Yeah, the
as, like,
structure.
deductible.
You gotta
Yeah,
change the whole
yeah,
structure,
yeah.
affects the compensation.
My personal opinion is that most people are probably overinsured with our plans, unless you have,
Yeah.
a lot of sick kids, which
Yeah.
use it, not, but.
Yeah,
No, I'm
no, I
probably
would agree. I think you got the Cadillac plan and you don't use it.
Yeah.
This is why you look at those alternatives, because
Right.
you're trying to capitalize on those people that are not using it without costing them anything.
Right.
Like there's no impact to the employee at all
Right.
when you do it that way, and it's massive savings for the employer.
If you
This is
own
a
your
bigger
own business,
discussion
you're
than
not
just
doing
a-
it.
yes, it is,
Right.
yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
just more
No,
choice,
No,
right?
it's still the Cadillac plan. You just have the Camry price.
It's more choice. You can still offer the Cadillac plan, but some people might choose an HSA because
Right, but, and
If
then
you're
what you have to
healthy and
do
young.
is you have to establish that this is what we're gonna give you, X, towards your health insurance. And then you pick the plan you like. And we did that in the school district, and it had part of the goal we wanted. It became very controversial because the people who benefited from it were happy, and the people who didn't benefit from it were angry. And then the agreement, somebody
That's
was
what I
able
had.
to read something into the agreement that was never there,
It was
and
fun.
that was a problem.
It depends on what you're going on.
Well, I think
Anyway, different
anytime
stuff.
anytime
Maybe we
Anytime
can
you
go
take
into
the-
all that.
anytime you take the convenience away, you're definitely going to run the risk of them having to be savvy enough to deal with the plan on their end. So you're like, all right, we'll refund you for whatever plan that you pick up to this dollar amount.
Correct.
And then they can sort it out from there. And some people are going to be very good at that, and they're like, wow, this is a real benefit to me because I've
Right, I
selected
never
the
go
right
to the
plan
doctor.
for my family, and then somebody else that doesn't know what they're looking at is going to feel like they're getting screwed.
Right.
Usually what you get is, and when you're in a situation like that, at least in my experience, is you get a choice of plans. You don't get, we're
Right.
gonna give you money to go anywhere you want.
No,
No.
not any, no, you got a
Right,
choice of
choice.
plans, but so, if the town said, we are gonna give every employee $20,000 towards health insurance.
but that's not what it's 85% though, right? Which is
Well,
different.
hear me out. And this is just a theoretical number, this isn't if we said we have a budget and Sarah gets 20,000, Jeremy gets 20,000, Abby gets 20,000. And they can, and here's the menu of plans you can pick. You can pick from whatever plan you want. So if it's somebody who doesn't need health insurance because they have a spouse and they can switch over to that, they would go to that, they would switch over to their spouse and they would get the $20,000. Sarah has 6 kids. She's only going to get 20,000. She's been busy. She's going to get the 20,000, but the excess cost of that family plan is on her.
Right, but when I, like, from my employee's perspective, when they'll offer me a percentage of a health plan, a normal health plan,
Right.
but with an HSA, I end up paying less deductible over the course of
Correct.
the year because I'm expected to pay more of the,
Right, and we don't have an HSA option.
right,
And there's no accommodation for it.
none. There's no, you can't open it up to choices like that
We
and
have
save
it.
everybody
I
money.
think
We have.
we can, we just haven't.
We have it.
Probably can.
Probably
Probably
could.
should look at that.
Especially now that this has gotten to this price.
And with the
point.
town, you don't have the unions like the school district, so.
I mean, we're talking.
Really, the town could say this is what you're gonna get, whether you like it or not. Obviously, it's not ideal. You wanna
Yeah.
make it feasible, and favorable to the employees.
You want something where everybody potentially wins.
Yeah, we could look more into that next year for sure.
Yeah, because I want to say it was 2 years ago. This was 27 something, 27 and change,
I don't have the budget in front of me. What is it now?
36
Yeah.
for the same plan. It was 27 2 years ago, 36 this year. So
Yeah, because I think not this year, the year before was a significant increase
Yeah.
that a lot of people weren't happy about. This year was like 7%.
The whole program.
yeah,
Anyway,
and it's how many full-time employees do we have that are on healthcare?
Oh, I feel like you always ask this. I never know the.
Less than a dozen, isn't it?
I was gonna say
It's like
11 or
10.
12.
Yeah,
Okay.
11 around there.
We have 11 full-time employees that are on the plan.
If we were unlucky enough to have 11 people that wanted the family plan, we're talking about, the better part of $500,000
You are.
in health insurance.
No, that's crazy.
I like my HSA.
Okay, moving on.
Yep.
Heating oil, 5,500, level funding that. Anybody have any questions? Oil burner service, going from 218 to 250. Life insurance, there's our dollar, going from 44 to 45. Liability insurance, you good with these numbers, Jeremy?
Yeah.
Property insurance.
Mhm.
Didn't we lump those together in other budgets?
One of
Liability
them I
front?
did because it just didn't make sense to split them out.
Okay. Recharge fire extinguisher, level funding that at 255. Social Security, is that a happy number?
That's a Jeremy number.
Okay. State retirement, we're good there.
That's another one that would be underspent if the current arrangement stays.
Yeah, so that gives you a little more fluff in the budget.
Well, should we tell them the budgeting for this? Remember the numbers I gave you?
Oh, these are all based on the actual current salary.
Okay.
So we had a dilemma. Do we fund the benefits at
Gotcha.
the current salary or the 65?
So no fluff.
No fluff.
So this is the current salary, and then I
Take
emailed
back my fluff.
Steve the other updated numbers in case we want to change them.
Okay.
Okay, that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Oh.
So you're looking at ones for 48
Sort of
minus the actual salary.
Halfway.
Yep. That is a novel idea because typically we just, for lack of, or to reduce confusion, we just use the actual number that's in the budget for the payroll, so, interesting, okay.
Yeah, we went back and forth on that a lot.
Yep.
We can change it if we have them.
I'm relatively indifferent about it, I just hadn't thought of that before.
Yeah.
Okay. And because if we were to dip into the higher number, it would be later in the year, so we
Mhm.
could cover these lines with that.
Okay, with the extra from the beginning part of
Yeah,
the year from
Yes,
that
sir, it
line
didn't
item
get
up there.
spent.
Uh-huh, understood. Okay,
And
well, with your overlap, then you wanna take that into consideration, so if you're gonna be, you can't use that extra money from, January first to April first in too many places.
right.
So,
Yeah,
yeah, when you're talking about your overlap person, you wanna consider that. Okay. Telephone is at from 1165 to 2160.
Right, because they upped the bills this
Oh.
summer. And, here we go, voice over IP time.
Here's the phone call conversation.
Tried.
I tried. And what I found out is that we have an alarm system
Yep.
on our main telephone line.
Oh, and the
Which-
elevator too, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there is an alarm system. The phone people say there probably is just a phone in the elevator. We need to figure that out. But at any rate,
Can we just pick up the phone right now and test?
There is an actual alarm. What's the company?
okay, for the elevator.
When I was a library trustee, I got many phone calls at weird hours.
This was
from the
the
alarm
fire
company.
alarm that was on with the main phone number.
Yeah, but in the elevator, are you talking about like the phone in the elevator?
That's what I thought you meant.
Yeah, cause there's a phone in the elevator if someone,
Yeah,
There's the
there's a
fire
phone.
department, yeah,
and so that goes to some system because
Does it?
someone's
That's
there
true.
on it, it's not like your house.
Okay. Cause the only thing I remember is in the
speak up?
past, somebody in an elevator popping the door, picking up their phone and dialing.
It's, yeah, I think it's part of the alarm, cause I don't know, I have grandchildren, we have
So-
talked to the people on the other end of that phone.
I feel like it's a dispatch,
Sorry, we
right?
didn't mean to
Yeah.
do that. So any
Yeah.
rate,
Alan's got some information.
I actually had the order in to make the change, and they pulled the existing line early. It shouldn't happen until the tech gets here.
Yep.
Okay, and I walk in the door and the fire alarm's got a fault on it. So I'm like, when the guy came, I said, we gotta undo this, put it back the way it was. But they said the problem with the alarms that don't work, this is from the phone guys, is they dial too fast. Which is an old problem. Okay, I mean, that goes, I talked to sources and they said, oh yeah, we've been dealing with that for like 20 years. It's not a voice over IP thing specifically, but I guess it's more sensitive.
Interesting. All right, well, we're stuck with it for now.
So I wanna follow up on that, talk to the alarm company and see if they can configure it to work with voice over IP. And the reason I didn't just try it is because I have to make a fire alarm to see if it worked, and I wasn't walking away without knowing the fire alarm system was working.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the number.
Well, whatever you learn there, let's apply it in other locations because
Yes.
this is and again, you add all these up and it actually adds up quite a bit.
Because I don't think anybody in town has a dedicated alarm system, which means the copper wire going back to the office is connected back to an alarm company, and it's only used for that. I think they're all dialers,
Okay.
so they would all have the same problem.
Okay.
What are you gonna say?
I have a question.
Yep.
If you have a maintenance schedule on a yearly basis, and the fire alarm is part of that maintenance schedule, and you have an issue with the fire alarm itself, shouldn't that be on the yearly report for you and a contact? So if there's an issue with the fire alarm right now, how did it pass last year's inspection?
No, that was just when he pulled the phone.
Yeah, that was just.
He was
what we
gonna switch our phone line from like landline to voice over IP.
Okay.
And when he did that, it made our alarm go wacky, but he fixed it so that we were back on the landline.
Okay.
Well, it wasn't the voice over IP did, it was when they pulled the line down, but that clued me that it was on with the phone line.
And the other alarm issue that was referred to earlier was something that the elevator was causing, which you guys have since fixed.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was a power problem.
Yeah, gotcha.
But the elevator is worth looking at too, to see if we can convert that. The difference between the phone bill we get now and the voice over IP is $35 a month per line.
Okay. Per line.
Per line.
Okay.
At least that's what they quoted me, you never know till you get the bill.
How many lines is library have? It's maybe.
One main line in the elevator.
Oh, yeah, okay. So it's on the first one.
Okay.
So, and the also, other thing I found out is that it's possible that you may need to put commas in between the numbers on the phone number, and the commas
For pause.
Gives you
are
pause.
pauses.
Yeah.
You never
I've
dealt
never
with
heard of that.
Oh,
Yeah,
it
if you
all
pre-program a
came back to
phone,
me
like a
because
cell phone, you can program a cell phone, and the amount of pauses you put in there depending on the system that you're calling into. Yep, because if the system has like a response or something that's going on, it takes a certain amount of time, you just keep putting the,
I see what you
The
mean, I've never
commas in.
dealt with it.
Yep.
Never had occasion.
yeah, we used to run into that with modems once in a while. Remember back in the modem days?
Oh, yeah.
Because you could fiddle with them, you could get them to dial like.
okay, moving on. Let us know though, Steve, because
Okay.
everybody else will benefit from your homework on that one, so.
Yep.
Workers' compensation, water and sewer service,
That's low.
Oh,
It's,
what is there?
it's $200 a quarter minimum charge, so it's gonna be at least $800.
Okay.
do you guys wanna change your ask on that to 800?
Like, it looks like the fourth quarter hasn't billed yet, that's why it's 554 right now.
Okay, yes, definitely.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, we would go 800 up and 900.
The 2023 actual was 907.
Yeah, I'm just saying 800 would be the minimum you should ask for, but if you wanna ask for more,
So
I'd ask
how do
for
we
more.
find out what it's really gonna cost us?
Well, he said it was like 200 a quarter, so 2 times 4 is 8. You can go like 850 if you want.
in 23, that would have been 157.
Oh, and they did go up.
154.
154, excuse me, 154 times 4,
616.
616, so
it's
you
a bit
are
higher.
about a 45% increase. So if you did 800 times 1.45,
1160.
1160, that's probably the more accurate number.
Okay.
How do you like that, Steve?
1160.
I
Okay.
defer to the experts,
Where are they?
whoever they are.
All right, so they're changing the ask on that to 1160.
Mhm.
Okay. Workers' comp, we happy there? 1395.
Yep.
There's no charge on that year to date. Do you find that interesting, Jeremy, or?
No.
Okay. That's fine. They'll let you.
We'll get there.
Okay.
That's fun when they take the money.
Professional development. Oh, we're putting $1 in there.
Yeah,
Got big plans?
it's part of the director's contract, but they haven't taken advantage of it. So
Well, you got a little bit left over from the,
We didn't wanna tie money up in there if we didn't need to, but we wanted to be able to expend.
Yep, good call. Okay. Trash collection. What's this?
This is getting the garbage can emptied.
Okay, weird. Why doesn't it have any history? Was this a new line?
I do not know that.
We paid for it somewhere
Once
else.
upon a time, they used to do it for the town for free, and then all of a sudden they didn't. But we had a kind volunteer who was between the kind volunteer and our custodian. Our trash was getting emptied, but
Okay, so that no longer. Okay.
yeah, it's no longer sort of an option right now, and we prefer not to rely on volunteers for trash.
You
Pickup.
some custodian, $9,000.
Is it like a trash can? bin?
Yeah, I
It's
was
just a
just
can
gonna
that's
say,
out there.
why,
Okay.
why is the custodian not taking care of the trash?
Where do they
Word.
put it?
Wasn't there a dumpster?
The issue is, no, that's
Oh,
what
trash
this is
can,
for.
yeah.
Oh,
There's
okay.
It's
never
actually just
been
a
a
can.
dumpster. It was
Oh,
done.
I'm saying.
It's just a, it's a
The
wheelie, it's a wheelie
did it
bin.
for free, then they said, we're not doing it for free,
Mhm.
and then somebody was taking it away for free,
Okay.
possibly putting it in a dumpster that they didn't own.
Oh,
And
goodness.
so,
But
Okay,
throughout,
so now we're
but
getting a
throughout the whole
dumpster.
thing, the can
you
was.
wanna know why there was no history on it, that's why there's no
That's
history.
why there was no history. But it does seem like if the town collectively approached this trash company, whom we're all using, and said, "Hey, empty the trash at each of these buildings once or
Yeah.
once a week or whatever," that they could get a better deal.
No, you can't.
Or,
I think
or
first
all the
thought,
trash from
almost.
all the departments can go to the transfer station.
It's a novel.
We'll set up a separate trash committee.
Then you'd have, you can share it.
I
Your nomination, I hear a second.
You gotta hire somebody to drive around, insure the vehicle.
Someone
Yeah,
on the highway
exactly.
Board.
Yeah.
Well, that's the public works
There you go.
director
It'd
position.
be-
I was trying to get it so that we could bring some cardboard from the
Done
library
plenty of
to
trash.
the transfer station and could not make any headway.
if we hire a public works director and then promptly hand them bags of garbage to bring to the transfer station, we've gone
Yeah.
astray. So our conversation from the trustees of trust funds regarding the required amount that's supposed to be in your operating budget on an annual basis.
Yes.
We determined that the general operating budget was actually covering that. Did we agree on that? That was that $100 for that particular trust fund. In order for that thing to remain active, we were supposed to put $100 into books from the operating budget, which was meant to be paid for by the taxpayers. We did that for a number of years, and then it converted into an actual operating budget because we didn't have an operating budget here. Is that the way you remember it,
Yes.
Alan? Are we in agreement on that?
Can you just say it again for
So the
Average.
$100
it's a
is
hard
solved.
concept, yeah.
The $100 is solved because it converted over to an actual operating budget. We were putting this $100 into.
You're jumping ahead. A lot of people here don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
One of the library trust funds has a stipulation that in order for that trust fund to stay active, the town must allocate at least $100 each year for the purchase of books.
From
taxpayer
taxation.
From
money.
taxpayers, yeah.
And that was in the town's operating budget for several years, well, many years, until sometime in the 1980s, was it? When all of a sudden, the operating budget, the library started getting an operating budget. Prior to that, it was just one line in the town budget.
Yeah.
So now they've got an operating budget, and there's no line in that operating budget for that $100 for books. And it's been going on that way for a few decades, and now we realize that we're doing it wrong. So we need to put a line item in the library budget
For books.
for $100 for books to satisfy the requirements of that one trust fund.
Can it be, it has to be exactly 100, it can't be 102?
Can be more.
It can be more.
So let's just
And when
round
this
up and
started,
make it
we went back and we looked at all the town
The trust
reports,
fund is for-
Yeah.
going back to 1930.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You're a
And
department
we
head.
started out,
Tell
there it
me
was,
what you're gonna get.
$100 for the library
Change my
Yeah.
hat.
every year.
For
So
books.
we're adding
No.
$100.
I don't think it said 4 books, but it was
They just knew it was.
just one line,
Yeah.
$100 for the library. Then it started going up, and it started getting into the thousands, and
Yeah.
eventually it became an operating budget with several lines,
Yeah,
like we see here.
yeah.
But along the way,
Books fell out.
that $100 line
It said
is
books,
gone.
yeah.
So here we're looking at $100,000 instead of 100, but we're no longer satisfying that requirement of having a line item for $100 in the town budget.
Do we not
for
have a
books.
line in there that says books?
That's what we're saying we should do.
Oh,
Add
yeah.
that one line.
We don't.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay. So we'll add a book line.
let's add another one.
I changed the computer
Books.
stuff.
Computers and books.
Yeah. Do we just call it taxation books or something? No?
Well, I have to say, if the fund started in 1930, you probably got a lot more books in 1930 for $100 than you're gonna get right now. 'cause-
It did.
No, it didn't
had
start,
no
that's as
inflation
far back as
component.
we found town reports.
Yeah. You're gonna.
It was already in existence before that.
Oh, it was? You're gonna get,
That's what I'm told.
because right now for $100, you're gonna get like
Nothing
2
back then,
kids'
but
books
probably
and maybe a coloring book, you know,
50 grand now.
No
Like
crayons.
crayons.
no crayons.
Okay, so,
Then that causes management issues because we generally buy books out of the trust fund money.
This
Okay,
was
so now
discussed
we've
as
gotta
well.
spend some of that money.
Yeah, we don't do
Buy
that.
So-
your, buy your
so
first
to
2
the
books
town.
out of that line.
So,
All you need to do is have the town cut you a check for $100 each year.
And put it into the checking account where we
Correct.
expend books out of.
There you go.
Okay.
True.
Now, I also saw that email and it had requirements for spending on building maintenance and stuff like that from the other trust
That's,
funds.
so that, alright, so let's close out that one.
I
That's the next one,
think I'm
yeah,
gonna let you
so-
off easy. on
Alright,
this.
so we're adding a line for books for $100. You guys handle the accounting however you want. If
Okay.
you wanna request a check from the town to go into your checking account for books so that it makes it easier on your director to pay for that, check with the auditors
So,
before you do that,
wait,
but yeah.
before we go away from this subject,
Mm-hmm.
we only have one selectmen's meeting left this year. So should the library not request $100 from us tomorrow for the purchase of books, then we'll write that check before the end of the year, so that it goes in the trust fund?
I don't think it matters, and we'll explain in just a second.
Okay, I mean, just,
This will be good going forward in 2025,
Okay.
so I wouldn't worry about it right now, but, so each of these funds, so the library has a trust fund of, what is it, call it $200,000. It has a trust fund of $200,000. Well, that is made up of several donations, right? So and each one of those donations actually some of them came with no purpose, so you could use it for whatever you wanted, but some of them came specifically with a purpose that they wanted us to use that money for. So, and the money that was donated made up a percentage of the overall fund. So we applied that percentage to the disbursement that the library gets on a yearly basis from the fund that they would normally just use for books flat out, right? You would use it entirely for books.
Books and materials.
Books and materials for various
But enough of
events
it
and
would
things
be
like
for
that.
books to cover the requirements.
Right, yes, but so what we found was there's actually a couple of components of this, and I forget what the percentage is, but it was meant for general maintenance.
Building maintenance.
Building maintenance, right.
Yeah,
General
which
build.
I did a whole spreadsheet on this, and I think that was like 8% or something like that.
Okay, so there's this component that they would normally spend on books that's coming out of these disbursements on a quarterly basis that they can't. They actually have to spend it on building maintenance. So that amount doesn't need to come out of the operating budget. So this is the weirdness that we have going on here. So in reality, the $100 line item that we created should be whatever the difference is. Okay, let's just use some straight numbers here. So let's say it was $1,000 a year that was meant to be used for building maintenance, right? You're going to spend that out of your checking account over here, so you don't need it over here. And actually, you guys bumped this from 1,000 to 2,000 in the operating budget this year. So you would be paying for that out of here, so you wouldn't need it over on this side. But you wouldn't be paying that $1,000 towards books, which you normally would do. So you got to stick that in the operating budget in order to cover it. So your $100 becomes
I was gonna go there, so we're
okay, so we're on the same
you
page.
know,
So the
if we have
$100
to
goes
spend money out of what we had been spending on books, we needed other
Right.
money to be able to spend the same amount of money on
So your
books.
$100 goes to $1,100, and your $2,000 for the building maintenance goes to $1,000. That's what makes it. That'll make it a wash.
don't
And
they
then
have
you'll be
to,
spending $1,000 out of. So your building maintenance will still be $2,000, but it'll be $1,000 operating budget and $1,000 trust fund money. Okay.
doesn't the trust fund money expenditures have to show up in the operating budget?
No,
Okay.
no, because they have a.
It's not a revenue offset.
It's like a revolving fund.
Okay.
But in actuality, all we have to do is take money that's in the bank account and move it to another sub-bank account that says building maintenance, even if we don't spend it that year.
Yeah, we were talking about using the fines fund to split it out.
Right.
So when we get our trust.
So I mean,
Whatever you
disbursement-
guys have to do
Look
to
at that
make
as
it
an
easier on your end,
expendable
but
trust fund.
Yeah.
And which would be more efficient if it actually got left in the trust fund
I think
that
you
you're
have jobs.
managing, so it grew, but that's okay. You know, it's like you have to take the money out, and then,
You don't have to, you could do a bookkeeping entry.
What'd you say, Alan?
You don't have to take the money out of the account and put it into a different account.
No.
You can do it, like we talked about the other night.
Yeah.
Putting it in fines and
Yeah.
repurposing the fines account.
Yeah.
But you don't have to do it that way. You have the option of just doing a bookkeeping entry to keep track of it.
Yeah, but I figured it would be easier on the treasurer if we separated it out at
Agreed.
the time of disbursement.
Not just on the treasurer, but somebody else who comes along
An
and
auditor.
takes over as treasurer.
Yeah,
do you know what Alan's getting at though by the bookkeeping entry? So essentially what you're
Yeah.
doing is you're just keeping track of what you would have gotten, you just don't take it. And so should you need it down the road, you have this dollar amount that you could have taken and you can just take it out of the trust fund in bulk at that time.
yes,
Okay.
I do. But I think it'd be easier for everybody just to keep it separated.
Okay.
That way, if we all win the lottery and decide we're not gonna be trustees anymore,
You got these checking accounts with the dollar amounts in them, and each of the checking accounts, it goes, it's no longer called the fines account anymore, now it's called the
Nobody's
building maintenance.
confused about it, everybody knows what the money's for, yeah.
Okay.
Well, you said if we all win the lottery.
I know.
If we do that, we're all creating new trust funds for the library.
Absolutely.
With no strings
No
attached.
strings attached. Leave money to the library, but with no strings
I'm
attached.
leaving town.
I say, I'm not gonna go find me.
I will dig that spreadsheet out and
So is this the right number now?
come
It
back
should be,
with a
Maybe.
number to put in the book line
Okay,
to make up
Yeah,
for
that's true.
okay.
That's still a lot.
The other question I had was
Yes, I need to add
technical.
that.
Well, let's just put a bow on that, so you just send that to me and we'll just bring it up in another meeting. We don't need to bring any more trustees back or anything for that, it should be just straightforward, and what it's gonna be is your book line item is gonna go from 100 to whatever you say,
Right.
and your maintenance line item is gonna go down by that same dollar amount.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you're just gonna have it sitting in your fines account for when you need it, so.
Yeah, we'll rename it all.
And that's at our discretion using it.
Yep.
Okay, so you said you went back through all these old trust funds that were set up,
Mhm.
and you took the percentage. Well, if they were all done at different times, how did you make the percentages? At what point
We
in
had
time
Ed
did you
do it.
figure the
Ed
percentage?
did it.
Ed did it.
Yeah, I didn't, not it. Ed did it.
You know
I
where
think
I'm- you know where I'm
I think
going?
what he took was the original dollar amounts, and they actually happened all, some of them
Within a
had,
few years.
yeah, I think
Oh.
they happened in a close time frame,
Not
but I
like
get what you're
50 year
saying,
difference.
because otherwise you need a freaking algorithm to figure out
Right.
Yeah,
exactly what the percentage was, so.
We all had the same idea, but getting, yeah,
Okay, so this is the best we can do, basically.
Ed produced the number and we said, sounds good.
yeah,
Yeah.
So in the spirit is there.
yes.
Yeah. Okay, I get that.
Okay?
Yep.
Alright, what's our new number here,
Total.
folks?
So it's 171,515.
With the 100 in it?
Yep, that's with the 100 with the change down to 1,500 and the change up just 1160.
171,515. Okay.
15.
Holy Hannah.
Yeah. I will generate
Most of
it.
that's the health insurance.
Okay.
Almost
Yeah.
40 grand of that is the health insurance, and then
Yeah.
that almost brings us below our 2024 budget.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's surprising is that the big bump was the health insurance.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, and you're going from a person that's using one plan to a different person that's using a different plan. That's where it happens. So that 171,515
Yep. Yeah.
is not going to change even after Steve's numbers come in, because it should be a offsetting entry.
Oh.
So, yeah. So, do I got a motion for that?
Yes.
Reluctantly.
Second.
Motion and second. Who was the second?
Me.
Okay. Any discussion?
It's too much.
We just did.
It's a lot of money. Yeah. So so basically, without the health insurance, but basically level funding it with what we paid already, it would be 150,907. So that's the difference.
So the out of our control number.
Yeah.
If we take the out of our control number out, we're up
10,000.
10.
Yeah.
True story?
Yep.
Is that what we're saying? Okay.
Yep.
Alrighty then. Any other comments or questions or concerns? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Abstentions?
Deb too. Were you a no or a
Capture
no?
that.
Okay, she's a no. too. Okay.
Abstaining.
Those two, Adam and Deb, and then Steve was abstaining. Oh, and Matt.
Conflict of interest.
2 noes, 2 abstentions.
Mm-hmm.
Sound good? And you only have to do roll call for Adam, 'cause I just wanna make sure his name is on.
Yeah, don't worry, Adam. You're the only name that I'm gonna add to these questions.
Thanks, Eddie.
Yes.
Alright,
Most were in favor, except Adam.
Always Adam.
great, I think that's it, thank you guys.
Alright, thank you.
We can all go home now?
No.
Not you guys.
There's no fast
The
pop.
library. Alright, so, up next we have
Mr. Bob.
Mr. Bob for the Recreation and Sam Paul Center. We'll start with Recreation, I think, 4530. Let's see here.
30,
Well, for-
Oh, there's a
I
different
was
order
looking
than
at the right
the
one.
agenda. Alright.
What's the redaction?
Yeah, thanks.
The total.
It was, like,
What
not
can
a
we
whole
say?
dollar.
Oh, 50 cents.
What are you hiding, Bob?
I did that, I did that.
It was
It wasn't a whole dollar. We want whole dollars here.
It was
Yeah.
50 cents. So.
I don't know where that came from.
I rounded it up.
All right, let's get started here. So 4530101, recreation director, level funding at 33,525. Summer camp staff, looks like this was the 50-cent one. 22,176 going to 21,200.
No, we need to stick with the last year's.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm looking at a different number here. Okay, that makes sense.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, I was confused.
Oh,
All right.
for Christ's sakes.
Alright, 21,201.
Bob,
21,201.
Bob, how many kids attend the summer camp?
We had between 80 and 90 last year,
Okay, thanks.
somewhere in that area.
What's the tuition for it?
We do $40 for town residents, and out of town, we do 60.
Okay, and what's the breakout there? 50-50?
Who?
In other words,
In-town
are
versus
half
out.
of them from town and half not?
More from town than there is from out.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's a week. The 40 and the 60 is per
Yeah,
week.
yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on summer camp staff? And that's 21,201.
I just want to clarify something.
Okay.
They're using this per week. That 40 or 60 is per week?
Right,
How many weeks?
6.
6 weeks?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Advertising. Taking the dollar out of that. Sure you want to do that, Bob?
Probably can add that back in. I mean,
Just in case you need it. You can't spend it if you don't have it.
right,
You can't spend it out of that line if you don't have a dollar in there.
okay.
Fishing derby is going from 500 to 700.
Yeah,
Trout are getting more expensive.
very much so. That doesn't even cover it, but,
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
I think we paid $750 this year, but, who knows where they're gonna be next year, so that's, gets us a little closer.
Okay.
Is it really for the fish?
Uh-huh.
I'm not a fisher person, so I
Oh,
don't
hey,
know.
it's
So-
probably cheaper to go buy them off the shop every fillet.
You gotta,
Oh, okay.
Buy 'em alive.
you gotta truck them in.
Yeah, okay.
Catch them and bring them down there.
Oh, there you go.
What we buy, the state matches, but.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Okay.
July 4th festival, going from 2,000 to 3,000. General supplies, keeping that at $1. Social Security, is that a good number?
Mhm.
Telephone, $580, level funding. Training, hiring, testing.
How did they get their telephone so cheap?
Hey, we're not talking about that again.
It's probably,
I think that's a cell phone for Bob.
I'm not sure if that's, yeah, that must be the cell phone on this one.
But I don't see cell phone anywhere else.
Yeah.
That's probably the cell phone.
Okay.
There's
The
another
No, the other-
phone's
the other
probably
one.
on the other budget.
Yeah, that would be.
It's
The other
actually-
budget's
it's actually
the,
cheaper
landline.
To buy a cell phone than Apple, yeah.
I was gonna say, that's a pretty good cell phone price.
Yeah, it is, actually. It's 2 months for me.
Any other questions on that?
No.
Training, hiring, and testing, level funding that at $1,000. Rec programs, it's a line that probably should have been deleted. Workers' compensation, 1249, that's being level funded, is that right? The grand total is 65518,
519.
that's what I said.
Yep, that's exactly what I said.
That pesky dollar.
Does anybody have any, inkling to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve at 65,519.
Second, anyone wanna make a second?
One second.
We got a motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Alright, moving on to the War Memorial Rec Fund. Let's change the name of these. At least it's not the same name, I think last year it had the same exact name.
Well, I think that refers to the entire area, not just the center.
I think so too. Alright, we can skip right down to line 104, the custodian, we're level funding at $4,000. Snow removal is level funded at $1,000. Jumping down to line 225, building maintenance and repair, going from $5,000 to $7,000. Just real quick, Bob, what is typically going into that, and are we getting into warrant article territory, or is that regular
That's
cost?
pretty much building repair and the maintenance of the building and all that. We've the building's 10 years old now. The furnace has been repaired a couple times this year. We've also had, lo and behold, we found out that the ice maker that we got out there, just wiping the front of it, wasn't cleaning it. And that, we found out that needs to get cleaned once a year. And so that's quite expensive to clean, but that's something that a technician has to do. They pump all kinds of chemicals through and clean it up. And the air conditioning unit had to be repaired last year.
Gotcha. Yeah, those are all
They're all-
non-warrant article items, so,
Yeah, the-
okay.
I mean, there's some things that need to be done in there, but that's a different category, I guess. The floor's starting to peel up. That should be in the,
Yeah, if you're gonna redo the floor, that's definitely a warrant article item.
or out of the trust fund or whatever, that irrevocable trust, or whatever it is there.
Yep.
Expendable trust.
But yeah,
Expendable trust.
expendable trust, that thing, yeah.
Yep.
But there's been more repairs. I mean,
Okay. Electricity, going from 6,500 to 8,000, looks like it's up $7,300 this year. Jumping down to line 360, general supplies, level funding that at $2,000. Generator service, going from 500 to 700. Anybody stop me if you got a question. Labor contracted services, level funding at 2,500. The internet is 0. We have an internet bill somewhere. I don't know, I don't know, we shouldn't have an internet bill anywhere, but that 0 should be fine, but I feel like we got a surprise internet bill at one point, so. I digress. Marlboro Road ball field, level funding at 500. Liability insurance, 629, you good with that?
Yep.
Jumping down to property insurance, 815 is a good number.
Mhm.
Propane, level funding that at $3,000. Recharge fire extinguishers, bumping that up from 200 to 500. Looks like we were over quite a bit this year.
Yeah, they used to come in and recharge and check the fire extinguishers. They take some and recharge them, and then they would check the hood. The Ansel system that's in there. But last year when they came up, they didn't check the Ansel system because the guy said he wasn't certified to do that. And so they didn't send anybody back to us this year. I said, if he wasn't checked last year, it needs to be checked this year. What do you got? And he looked at it and said, oh, I can do it, but I gotta come back. And so there was a separate charge for the Ansel system versus the other, so I added that into the cost of the recharging and the Ansel system, which they couldn't do before. All of a sudden they could, but they won't do them together.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
So it's another round.
The dollar amount makes sense. I don't know if the authority makes sense.
The way they get to it didn't
Yeah.
make sense
Yeah.
because, do it while you're here and you get it all, and it's one service charge,
Yep.
But no, not that way.
Okay. Any other questions on that one?
Yeah, I got a question.
Sure.
Was the reason, I'm just thinking this through, was the reason that he had to make a call was because he wasn't dispatched for that originally? So he had to come
don't
back?
I don't believe so. I believe with this guy here that's been doing it for them, I think that's what it's gonna be this year also.
Okay, that was the question, is it gonna be, was that a one-time deal?
It does take him time to tear it down too and put it back together again and.
Get him a sleeping bag, let him spend the night. One trip.
Take it off the bill.
Anyway,
Luxury accommodations.
all right, thanks.
Pretty much.
Sand and gravel, level funding that at 600. Social Security, 310.
Okay, Social Security, not custodian. I guess, no.
What, yeah, what gets so scary out of his one?
Yeah, that's weird. There's no payroll on this one, so
Other than the, yeah,
Well,
custodian.
is the
Custodian.
custodian a W-2 employee?
Excuse me?
Is the custodian a W-2 employee?
Yes.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah.
oh, that's where it is then, that's the payroll. Okay, trying to figure out where the heck I was.
Telephone.
Sand and gravel, I got it,
Telephone.
telephone basic rate, 960 level funding,
We're already over that in October. Is it the right number?
there's your,
Yeah,
Yeah, there's your, you got your increase.
so yeah,
This is our, that's for our our alarm system, so.
Yep.
We found we could get off of this if we went cellular on the alarm system, but it won't go over the voice, the IP phone.
Yep.
The alarm company said that they'd have to, if we wanted to stop having a landline, that they could put in like a US cellular line that was in there dedicated to that, but it would be, I don't know, $1,200-$1,400 for the equipment and then a certain amount of money to maintain it each month. So I don't know which is cheaper
well, the, what you have currently is, what we probably should figure for 2025, but it looks to me that you're not gonna have enough to cover 2025. It looks like there was an increase of some description here.
is that including December's bill?
The increase,
Or probably not?
Sarah, didn't that happen during the summertime, the increase?
Yeah.
So this is like a half a year at the higher rate, so this is way short.
And not even half a year, it's only
Yeah, 'cause
like
this is
July,
as
August,
of-
September. Their numbers are better at the beginning of October.
I don't know.
I'm just
So
thinking that
basically what you
I'm
need to
wondering
do
if
is
some of the
pull
other
the phone
phones
bill
would get
and
put
just
into that.
multiply that by 12 and put that number in there.
Agreed.
That's what I did on the library.
Be something to look at.
Sarah, could you do that for us? See what the average new phone bill is for this, and
Yeah.
let us know what the times 12 is for the
Okay.
annualized figure. Surveillance system going from 500 to 600.
Yeah, they went up a little bit.
Jumping down to line 905, water and sewer service, going from 600 to 800. I don't think that's gonna be enough either.
Probably
Yeah,
not.
no. What did
So-
we write, 1160? Probably.
Oh, they're already at 800 for,
Yeah, we use a
Three
lot more water than the
It'll be
library
more
does, so.
Is your events, you know?
Oh,
Your events?
811 times, divided by 3 times.
Just toilet flushing.
You're 8/11 through
1082.
September, basically.
So $1,100
yeah.
is probably a more accurate number there.
Mm-hmm.
You wanna change that request, Bob, to 1,100?
Yes. Thank you.
Water testing, we're level funding at 500. And workers' comp is $90.
Yeah. 84,804 pending the telephone.
Yeah, so a tentative approval, and we'll just make an
What is
adjustment
it?
when the telephone number
34,804?
comes in. What was the total again?
34,804?
Or what you do, you can't get through here unscathed.
All right, I'll entertain a motion on that number.
I'll motion to approve tentatively for the 34,804 pending the telephone.
Second.
A motion and a second, any further discussion? Questions, comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay. Is that it, Bob?
That's it.
Jeez.
Oh, we didn't ask the library, any warrant articles?
Yeah,
Ooh.
Just the one that we pulled out? Or do you have another one?
we may have other ones.
Save for Bob.
Bob, any warrant articles you plan on, requesting for the select board to put on the warrant for you? Big ticket items?
Well, you know, we've gotta do some work on the parking lot. That, it's caving in several spots. But I don't know if that's a this year thing or for next year, we haven't really discussed it too much yet.
Okay.
The floor, we still have that other fund that we could probably get the floor out of, right, Dick?
Yep.
Yeah, so we have that other fund we might have to hit for that if we decide to do it this year.
Yep.
But we can, some of the ones that are bad, we can pull up and glue down, but eventually it's gotta be redone.
That's the VCT tile, right? Vinyl composite tile?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not, not holding up very well. I mean, if some water gets spilled in there, you know, and you know, the tiles are coming up. And
Yep.
there's a lot
It's
of-
weird, you wonder if, maybe a stricter maintenance schedule or something on that would help, like, because schools have, like, you go to the schools and that's what, all they use is that stuff, and of course, they've got, you know, they strip the wax and they re-wax the thing every year, but they go forever. You know, so to see that go 10 years and
I'm
be
not-
falling
yeah,
apart.
there's different levels of tile too, you know, I'm not sure what.
Well,
you put
I
down.
think it's also, in the schools, it's on concrete
Yep,
typically, and like you can go into Monadnock and that's the same tile that was in there in 1962.
right, well, that's what I was kinda getting at, but yeah,
Yeah,
you're right,
asbestos.
probably less movement into the.
Yeah.
Look at
Yeah.
the gym at the school, I mean,
That's
in
the
the
good stuff.
1950s, just
Mm.
2 years ago,
Right.
I mean, yeah, but,
So, but I think it's the subfloor is the issue.
right.
Movement in the subfloor.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you
I
can
think
see, if you go in there and got the right light, you can see each sheet of plywood that's in there.
Oh,
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, I don't know who put flooring down, but it might not have been level, floor
Yeah.
level and everything in between and all that, so. I mean, the guy that used to come in and do our waxing for us said his machine would hop
oh, yeah.
all the way across, so eventually it's gonna,
Yeah, VCT doesn't like movement on the floor, so,
and
yeah.
there's
So if
movement,
that's going on, then, yeah.
there's movement, so I'm not sure what kind of floor.
Well, when you
needs to be
redo
put
it,
down.
don't put VCT back down then, I don't know what to do, but.
Well, I don't know, maybe not that, I don't want carpet either, because all.
No.
All the glitter that gets put in there, you know.
Vinyl plank is
Yeah.
actually probably a pretty good,
Yes,
if
and
you buy a
it's-
decent
And
vinyl
it's
plank.
relatively inexpensive.
Yep.
And it floats, you
Yeah.
know, so it doesn't.
Well, you'll still get, if you have if it's out significantly, like when you go into the deli, you'll see where Archie just laid it right over everything.
Right.
You can't do that, but I don't think you've got anything that's at.
Yeah, you can't get the plank that's almost free and
No.
then just put it over the contours of the
Right,
Rocky Mountains and
right.
expect it to last, yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
but, something to look at, have different companies come in and
Okay,
quote us, so. It might be something for next year, not this
I
year.
think it's something that would be a warrant article in 26.
gotcha. Okay. Back to the library real quick, did you have anything beyond the warrant article that we talked about potentially developing?
We're looking at, I got the numbers.
I'm done, right?
Yep.
It's-
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bob.
Bob.
All right.
Stay.
Not that I don't like staying.
Sprinkler heads and gauges, 6,000.
Yeah.
So that would be the warrant article.
Okay,
And that's not an actual quote, that was an over the phone price.
okay.
I'm gonna try to get a real quote.
Yep.
We're investigating some upgrades. We'd like to get some cameras in here, because they've had problems with people getting in the corners and not knowing they're there and stuff like that.
Interesting.
And there was at least one instance where there was somebody in here when the library wasn't even open.
Like sleeping or?
Nobody knows.
Reading them.
Yes, yes.
Start reading books.
The adult section.
Nobody knows any rate. So, to do a full indoor and outdoor camera system is like 12 grand. You know, the DVR and all that stuff.
Is that contracting it out, Steve? That seems high.
That was the only quote I was able to get on that. We're in apparently nobody wants to come to Troy and do any work. I've run into this on everything I've tried to do.
We need another phone line.
Yeah, that's right.
Steve, what does Bob use down at the rec center
I
for
don't know.
surveillance cameras?
I can go visit Bob and find out.
Cause he's got a setup down in the basement, I think
You know, the back deck
yeah.
as well, all the way around actually.
Yeah.
And that may be older. I mean, if you don't care if you actually wanna see anything,
And he gets.
I'll donate a system.
Yeah,
I think-
his can see pretty good.
I think he also gets his things sent right to his phone when the activity's going on.
Well, he's talked to me many times at night, walking out back.
Yeah, he's,
That sounds more like a,
I don't know what he's got, I
Yeah,
don't know what it is.
Richard has a pretty extensive system at the laundromat. I can look right now on my phone and
right.
I can literally look down South Main Street to the point where you can almost see to this building. And I can look all the way across to the town hall and all over Common and every little nook and cranny in that building.
And how much did you pay for that?
Nothing like $12,000.
Yeah.
I mean, he did the install.
Oh, he did the install. That's probably part of the thing is,
Well, I'm sure a lot of it's labor, but
I mean, the laundromat, from what I've seen in there, was a really easy place to run that stuff.
yeah, probably.
Cause it was all open upstairs.
Yeah.
This is not so easy.
No, you
Probably
have a
needs
masonry
some
building.
breaks.
Yeah, it's like, no way to get from down there to up here and
Yeah.
stuff like that. That's what we're looking at. We may do something that just monitors, you know, on the desk kind of thing, and that would be, we can probably just cover that if we do that.
Okay.
We also looked at a keyless lock system, $6,600.
Wow.
Yeah, everything's a lot. And then they quoted us on a security system, which you never asked for, which was another $4,500. And then we had some, let's call it security issues, where the freestanding air conditioners, what do they call those, you know, that have the hose going to the window?
Oh,
Mini splits.
First of all, the windows, it was in the window and the window had no lock or anything.
Oh, like the little portable ones.
Yeah, so,
Yeah,
oh, and then
real
the window's
air
only open
conditioning.
so far.
Right.
Yeah.
And even if the window was locked, I could take that plastic thing and
Right.
push it right out.
And then push the window up.
So we said, well, let's see about actually putting air conditioning in here, which is about $30,000.
And it
Yeah,
might
especially if
keel
you're going
over.
central.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who quoted that? And would that do the whole building or
That would be the whole building. And
Centrally.
it was actually a heat pump system,
Yeah.
and for that price, you can actually use it to heat even down below zero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have to look at things,
Right,
otherwise
and
you're
then,
just
but,
sitting.
and then you're not, but is that electric?
Yeah.
The heat
Oh,
pumps
yeah.
are electric, so then you're
Yeah.
not paying for oil, so over time,
There's
it's
an
kinda,
offset. Well, it
yeah.
depends upon which utility costs more at a
Right.
particular time.
Time,
It changes.
Right,
And then how often you lose power.
well,
so
yeah.
that was
Public
from a
service
guy
station
in,
also the radio
works
going
out
down.
of his own company out of Richmond. We've got
Down.
2 or 3 other quotes we're waiting to come in on.
Did you reach out to Bergeron?
Yeah, I don't think they ever got back to us.
Really? No, that's too bad. They're in town, so I mean, half the company's in town.
Kristen was handling the air conditioning
Okay.
stuff. I did the security system.
This is quite the wish list you got here.
There was,
Optimistic.
the camera system, we'd like to do something.
Yep.
That's not a bad idea to get something.
And I could certainly do something cheap, but then I own it.
I would go look and see what Bob's got.
Cause I'm running stuff at home on free software that
It's
works
pretty
beautifully.
decent.
I have a,
You know,
I have a
it's like the
question.
professional systems, you can see multiple cameras and all that.
Alan.
I have a question.
Yep.
Being on patrol, going by here at night, there's so many different people out here sucking off the internet.
Yeah.
Is there a way to shut that internet off so you don't have all these people piled up on a park bench out here during all summer long?
Yeah.
Or
There
In the
is,
par-
this
in the
time of
parking
year,
lot.
parked in the parking lot?
Yeah,
it's called parental controls.
no, we're talking grown adults.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
not-
but that's how you
what
turn it
set
off.
on your router.
So
You can set a time
So
when it's up and a time when it's
that's what I'm getting
down.
at. If,
But do we wanna do that?
Well,
That's the question.
Well, I always
What are
thought,
they using it
I always
for?
thought the intent was to make it available to the public.
Right.
no,
but
yeah,
after
if you're in
hours
here,
though, or no?
I'm talking,
No, I know what you're talking about. No, I always thought it was the intent to have it available to people outside
24/7.
24/7.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
I
I
was not
also
aware of
like
that.
the
Doesn't
thing where
cost
if
us
you're gonna get
anything.
cameras, those cameras
Well,
will
my
probably
point
need the
is-
internet, so you
is
shut it off,
by,
they might turn the cameras off.
by,
Al, go ahead and finish, Al.
Yeah.
by shutting off that internet,
None of these were internet based, they were all hardwired cameras.
Okay.
you don't have the influx of people sitting here all night long during the summertime or in parked vehicles.
Well, has it been I mean, I don't perceive that it's been a problem. I perceived it's been a public good, really.
They do it at town hall too. so-
Until,
Yeah, they do it at town hall.
Right.
They do it at the laundromat.
cause they always tuck over here in the corner.
Yeah.
And
Where
they're
the
they're
bench
just
is.
sitting
And they sit
there
right on the bench.
They do it at town hall.
doing the internet
Yeah.
stuff, so.
The
Has
whole
there been
rest
a
of the
problem
parking
with them
lot's
doing
open
that?
for 10 minutes.
I've never had a problem with them.
Then why would we wanna,
Well, if he's having a problem with,
people coming inside?
Yeah, that was people inside.
inside.
Oh,
Yeah.
inside.
Uh,
I thought you meant outside.
Oh, I thought you meant putting cameras on the outside.
Well, that too, just for, security
Security.
reasons, but.
like your doors.
But
They're
if you
breaking
do
into
one, you
the
might as well do
windows.
the other. But the issue they've had isn't the old dude sitting out there on the picnic table. It's people inside the building when the building's closed that don't belong here.
See, that I didn't know.
Or inside the building when the building is open and hiding in the stairwell or something like that.
Oh, that's kinda creepy.
Yeah.
Well, think of it as making out with your girlfriend in the hallway.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that.
I understand.
Why not, Debbie? You're no fun.
However,
But I
Sorry.
am looking
But the
to
guy was alone.
possibly upgrade the Wi-Fi here.
Debbie's no fun.
Just match the system, and I don't think it's
All
very
right,
well
moving on.
separated between library functions and the public. I have to verify that.
Yeah, you definitely don't want your public internet here being intertwined with
Yeah. And there's
the thing that you access those bank accounts we talked about earlier.
there's
Yeah.
easy ways to separate them. It's not expensive. It's just
Yeah,
put the right wires in the right place.
Complete.
Yeah.
Get to the
Different
common,
option.
it's north of the park.
Yeah,
But I have
like
no,
a different option, guest
I'm
option.
still learning all the bits and pieces here.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's okay.
All right. Anything else on this Christmas list? You got yours?
No, that's it.
Hopefully
That's it?
Santa comes this year.
Well, I can
Well,
add
it's
more.
good though. It's
I
good
can add
to-
more stuff.
It's good to go through and see,
But
things that you'd like to do, and obviously you
Stocking
gotta,
stuffers.
yeah, and then you gotta pare it back at some point.
Yeah,
but-
you could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
These aren't
Good to
starting.
have
we looked
ideas.
at it that, this stuff sounded
Mhm.
good, let's see what it costs.
Yeah.
So that's why I have
When you
numbers.
know.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so it's not on the agenda, but we got some updated numbers from the highway department and the transfer station.
Hopefully they're down by 50%.
No. One of
No,
them
you should
doesn't
see it
make
in your
any
packet.
So I calculated that based on them getting a raise April 1st.
Well, that's where I'm confused because you proposed at this amount, but then you have notes at a higher amount. So
Yeah.
are
The
the,
notes is the,
It's partially a year at the old rate and part.
Right.
oh, okay. So the
That makes sense.
proposed amount is the total for
The year.
25. Okay.
It's the current salary through March 31,
And then from
the
there
new
on. Okay.
salary from April 1 forward.
All right. I'm just making sure the totals
And
are
then-
gonna come out.
The other thing I would like to make the group aware of is that the select board voted to change the title in line 101 from Public Works Director to Road Agent.
Road agent. Okay.
that's a good clarification, Dick. I was wondering I saw that in there, I think it's been like that forever or
Well,
whatever, but it's.
They changed it for Jimmy.
Yeah, exactly, and
It's,
it's not the same thing anymore.
it's not the same deal.
Sarah has a
I have a
comment.
question. Do we not normally put what their salaries, entire salaries going to be in the salary line, like regardless?
You put so in the case of that line, it's correctly in here, I assume those numbers work. Because there's a new rate, that's the 77,000.
Yeah.
However, we won't be expending 77,000 in this budget year.
I just don't think we've ever split it up that way. I think we've always
Put the whole number in there?
Yeah.
Well, you should have. We're here now.
Okay, so,
Yeah,
so the,
either
the,
way.
dif- so the
Yeah,
difference
it makes
between
more
those
sense
is
to
that
split
3
it up.
months.
That's a good
Okay.
question
Make it
though,
an
Sarah, because I think we have done that in the past.
Yeah.
And it was always a question of, when does it actually begin?
Right.
Well,
You
right.
know, and there's a lot of, since Dick's been here, he's tried to have it, raises and increases begin on April 1, because town meeting, it happens after town meeting, but if it's in the normal course of the operating budget, you can actually start spending more than you planned on between January 1 and April 1 by law, so.
If
So
you,
that's
and my argument with that, I don't know if it's an argument, but if we're giving position X a raise, based on our whim, what happens when what happens when that budget doesn't pass? Well, you've given the raise, you can't take it back.
Yep.
And then so it doesn't seem like the right way to do this.
Yep. No, it's a bit of a gray area, because you could literally go to town meeting with one number, and town meeting's good with it, and then 6 weeks later, you're in negotiation with this person because maybe they're leaving or whatever, and you add $10,000 to it, the select board actually can do that right in the middle of the year.
Correct. But we have to find the money someplace else.
Yes, it's not gonna be in that budget, but the rest of the budget will suffer as a result of that, so.
Here's another health insurance crazy.
Oh, yes, somebody, yeah.
Alright, so let's just start at the top here,
I'm
so,
really going on my own.
so under the, road agent, line 101, we have the proposed budget of $70,750. That's a 36% year-over-year increase, but the actual salary increase is gonna be to $77,000 a year, starting on April 1, 2025.
Correct.
That is a 48% increase.
Okay, less than water and sewer.
Oh, but if you go back several years, you'll find that that's more in line with where it was.
But Jimmy was here for 87 years at that time.
That's true, and you had other tasks, but then you're in a different labor market too.
And then you had the prior to the current one, who was at like 80?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So was this the plan of the select board when hiring this position?
Ask the question, I'm not sure I'm
So-
understanding the question.
So there was a pretty sizable increase last year, and I believe that the plan was to bring the road agent in at a dollar amount, and then
Yes.
after a period of time of like trial or whatever, there was gonna be a sizable bump, and I forget what
Yes.
the percentage was
And that's
last year,
correct.
but.
Well, we didn't do it as a percentage, but we did it more in terms of dollar amounts.
Right, but just for comparison purposes, it was a big bump last year.
Yes.
So was it also the selectman's position to do another, what looks like a course correction?
Yes.
Okay.
Because if you go back to when this road agent was hired, he was hired for less than his laborer is making. Really and truly on a trial and error, or a trial basis.
Mhm.
And we felt that he did a good job, and we brought it up to a more reasonable level. And now we've built his resume, and we're looking at, we looked across the towns of similar size in the state and the region, and it's not crazy high. It's not even high, it's probably on the lower side of the middle.
It is. I look.
So that is how we came to decide, we went through some negotiations with him, but that's how we came up with this.
When you were looking at the comparisons, so we were looking at towns of similar size, similar structure, whatever.
Yep.
Fitzwilliam and Marlboro and Jaffrey, which is a much bigger town. Keene's not really relevant because they have a full public works department.
Was there any information on those towns regarding the tenure of the person we were comparing to? Like how long they've been an actual road
Fitzwilliam's
agent?
new.
Yeah, if it's only brand new, they put like
I
during
believe
last
they're
snowstorm.
substantially higher.
Hospital department.
They're like brand new, like never had a position like this before. They weren't coming from another town.
Well,
Or,
we didn't, honestly, we didn't look at that, we simply looked at the number amount.
Okay.
And I think that it's in the category of, we feel he's doing a good job. No road agent ever really does a perfect job. Ask anybody with a pothole in their street. But we feel that he's competent, he's getting better. So, anyway, that's how we landed on the number.
And then just to comment on that one, because I looked at the amounts as well, the position is also, depending on where it is, it's also called a different thing. So it's either road agent, public
Yes.
works director, or public works something else. Yeah, facility, something else.
Facilitator.
There's like 3 different versions for the same job depending on where you're
Yeah, but
looking.
when you talk to the people, you go, well, what does this guy do?
Yeah.
And they all do the same thing. They're in charge of getting the roads plowed, they run the dump.
okay. Yeah, the only thing that I have to say is that it just needs to be well explained at town meeting. At 48% increase is happening not long after the 31% or whatever it was last year. I'd have to look back to get that number, but the big chunk that we did last year for this position, yeah, I'm just,
Well, and
that's
that's,
all.
you know, where we brought somebody in so low, you're gonna wind up with those kind of increases.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts or concerns on that?
Not on that.
Okay.
I got some other questions here.
Not on that line, but you wanna move on to the next line?
Well, I'll let you know when we get there.
Okay. Labor number 1 is, so this is going from, the 2024 budget 47.5 to 55,000.
53,000.
Right, but the
full set.
but the full salary is gonna change to 55. That's what we're gonna be on the hook for going forward, in the coming years. So, the effective budget amount is gonna be 53,125 for 2025. Anybody have any thoughts or questions on that?
I have an overall question, which I don't know if, since John's not here, but.
And I told John we'd bring him in if we wanted to have this conversation in greater detail with him if you guys wanted, so.
I would just be curious, like the overtime amount, he cut big time, but everybody's making a higher dollar amount an hour. So he's really saying that they're gonna have like no overtime hours wise. That seems a little dangerous. I just wanna make sure that he looked at
Yeah,
it.
because he had said that they don't have winners like we used to, is what he said.
Right.
Yeah,
but
but I
don't
guess
they
we're gonna
have
have this
more
one.
guys?
Well,
We're not going past
It
that.
just seems like we give everybody a raise and then
Well,
you
the other
slash
thing
your
is we
overtime
changed
budget.
the way we handle their overtime. So there's a certain amount.
I mean, if we get a snowstorm like we did a
Well,
couple
yeah,
years
that's what the
ago.
other two.
We changed, well, his is the reason you got the drop there, because we changed the way we handle his. That's where the number came from.
I guess just like $4,500 gets eaten up pretty quick when your lowest wage
So the
guy.
current arrangement with the road agent, similar to the police chief, is they're not eligible for overtime until they hit over 50.
But that's just the road agent.
Right.
Correct. So there's 2 full-time guys that are making.
I can't speak to that.
So they're never
Well,
gonna-
and there's also there's the proposal, the way John came up with this, was he was going to, he felt he could arrange it through scheduling. Like at this time of year, if we know there's a big nor'easter coming in 24 hours from now, everybody can go home and rest up.
Yep.
And then they're not gonna have that much overtime. So if we're thinking of it in terms of somebody goes to work at 8 o'clock in the morning and, oh geez, there's a snowstorm at 10 o'clock at night, now they gotta work 16 hours straight. His thinking is he doesn't have to do that. And they don't necessarily, they're not jonesing for this overtime. They would prefer to not be plowing roads, 24/7.
Do a little math on this, would you, Adam?
So the cheapest guy would be like $33 an hour at time and a half. So it's 135 hours of overtime for the cheapest guy for the entire year. That just seems like you're not gonna have enough money.
Yeah, it's like 2 hours a week.
Yeah.
Well, you're not gonna have overtime in the summer.
Do you think he needs to
I think
go
you need
back?
to just look at it. If these raises go through, I think whatever, it's why he gets the big bucks is to manage his budget, so. I've made my suggestion. I'm not doing any more math for him.
Does that mean if the budget doesn't work out, he gets a pay cut?
Oh.
No.
No, doesn't work that way,
Incentive plan.
unfortunately. Okay,
Negative incentive works very well.
so the labor number one, no other comments or questions on that?
I would point out that labor has been with the town for
36 years?
36 years.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, so that makes sense.
I don't have any problem with that number, honestly, for guys.
It's that the other one has been here a year and a half.
Yeah, but that's the difference when you're the boss.
Labor one is a one in the boss.
Labor one, it's not,
I know, we've all tried to have labor one.
Well, there's that gap.
But didn't we add, like, isn't the third person new over the last couple of years, wasn't there only 2 of them, and they've added another person there?
That person
Yeah.
went from part-time to full-time.
Labor two is the
Okay.
newer.
Yeah, so it wasn't full-time
Yep.
back in the beginning.
Right.
So hopefully that should work with some of this potential overtime, because they have more hours available scheduled. I don't know, a piece of me feels like we say, your budget has increased a substantial amount, most of it is salary and benefits, so go back and cut out your extra nuts and bolts that you put in here, and come back with a more reasonable increase. If you're gonna make this money, then you have to cut down your budget.
well, it's not, the highway budget for Troy has been woefully inadequate for decades. And when I was a very young man, I went to work for a very big company, and I learned that the reason that managers' bonuses were paid 4 months after the end of the fiscal year was because if they weren't, they figured out how to kick all their expenses into the next year and take their bonus and hit the road,
Yeah.
to summarize. And so, I'm not implying that's what happened here, but I think the highway department in Troy is challenged to do the things that it needs to do and keep it at anything less than the kind of increase that you're looking at here. It is about manpower primarily, and there isn't, you're not gonna cut it down to a 4% increase and get any of the things that you would reasonably expect to be done. I think that there are a lot, that's my opinion. I mean, yes, you have a 1,700% increase on radio electronics.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm
But
saying, is
that's-
there somewhere that he's kind of said, hey, I want this and I want that, is there something that I
Well,
think he would.
John would have to come in and defend his own stuff, but I think,
He's on the
some of these things are what it costs to replace things.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
I know, it's just a lot of money.
It is.
I get it, it's just a lot of money, and it just,
I mean,
You
if
get
you want John to come in and
no
defend his
vote.
budget again, you can
I
do that.
lied awake last night after we went through this, thinking that this is, yeah, all
Do you
night.
want me to have John come back in for the recall meeting?
Yeah.
We can get updated number,
Yes,
we can get so we can get, this is as of 11/15, so we'll get it as of year end, because the recall meeting is in January. So we'll have it as of year end. We'll look at exactly what he was planning on spending in 2024, what he actually spent in 2024. Because I think that plays a little bit of a role here, because John has great aspirations to get a lot done.
Right.
But he would need a whole nother guy for some of
Right.
these aspirations
Right.
to get. I think he got a lot done, but did he? If he's got $100,000 still available in last year's budget, does he need $200,000 in this year's budget?
I think that's reasonable.
That's probably a
think
good
he
question to
has
ask him,
that.
but we definitely want him to come in to have that conversation. So
And I don't think he actually has all that left over, because there's some that's missing, like the liability insurance and things like that haven't been taken out of our budget yet. So it's a little bit less, but not quite 100. I was just looking at that.
Now, speaking of what you just said, aspirations of, dreaming big.
Yep.
And one of the components we talked about the last time was the paver. It's a good dream to have, but you only have so many people here,
yeah,
and you don't have enough time to do that kind of work. There's plenty of other things to be done other than buying a paver. First of all, you don't have the personnel to run a paver and the equipment to do so.
Yep.
So it's good to dream big.
Yep.
But you gotta be realistic as well.
yeah, and and it's one of those things like, if the budget is arbitrarily high and we just know he's not going to spend it because he just doesn't have the manpower to spend it, well, that's fine, but that also adds fluff in the budget that the budget committee just has never been supportive of.
Well,
So it would be.
And I don't think that the select board's advocating for that either.
Yeah, so if it's something that, if in reality it can't be done, I mean, these things, yeah, they need to be done over the next 5 years, but wanting to get them all done in 25 just can't be done, then maybe coming to that, realization that cutting some of that back is what might make sense, so.
But you've got 150 man hours available to you a week, and you've got 300 man hours worth of work done based on your budget, something's gonna get left on the table.
Yeah,
Always
exactly.
does.
Yeah.
Which again, I mean, he'll come in way under budget and that'll be great, but it's probably not
Well, it's not really.
the best way to do it. All right, so I'll message John and see if I can get it back in.
It's done.
Okay.
He said that basically, he says he did his math right, and we get a big storm next week. Don't jinx us, John. We all end up with 20 hours, he said, of overtime, and that line's basically toast. So he's thinking 15K. So.
Yeah, okay.
So he'll be here on the 27th.
Brought it up. Numbers tripled.
Hey, you brought it up. So.
I didn't bring it up. Let's be clear. I didn't bring it up.
Okay, so
Yes.
where do we find that money from?
Taxation.
There we go.
Not our problem.
We're all gonna win the Powerball.
You get a little bill that comes
Are
in the
you
mail.
gonna keep that one, or are you just gonna wait for him?
What's that?
It's Bali right there.
Yeah, we're all going up when the
I don't think we have
Powerball, we're
much
outta
left
here.
to discuss. Do
Well,
we? A
I'm
lot of them
looking
are
at this,
Fine.
there's probably
Yeah.
looking
Lucky if you
at,
ever hear
All right,
from
everybody,
Uh,
reel it
Bought
in
a
here.
chunk of land and
looking
sold
at
it and all
this,
of it.
Steve speaking.
Oh, I'm not disorganized.
$6,000 extra for building maintenance and repair.
Where are you
What
looking?
line item, please?
Oh, hold on.
225.
225,
I can address that slightly.
okay.
The building, I don't know, I wanna call it a barn, the
I think it is
front
the
barn,
bar.
garage down on Dort Street needs substantial repair.
Yes.
And we felt it should be in his budget. And he has, and again, when he comes in, I think he made a very good presentation to us on exactly what he wants to do there, and exactly where he got the number from.
The point I wanted to make is warrant article. Right?
Yeah, just like
Putting it down for
Just like my sprinklers.
Yeah.
Okay, and I would say the same thing for the dam work. If that's a one-time deal, that should be a warrant article.
Now, I have a question.
That would definitely help the, yeah, because if it looks like we have warrant article numbers in here, that'll definitely help the overall number for sure.
What line is the dam?
257.
My memory is too good to. I can remember for a half an hour.
Yeah, and he had some pretty specific asks on that with regard to sand dam and a couple of the others too.
Right, but that's like a project.
Well,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
not
the-
that big of a
the-
project for $15,000, but
Yeah.
I agree with you that it's,
My note said that the mowing it back, what was it, the 6 feet or whatever it needed to be, concrete and fill.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's for the dams. He's got to do all that. I was looking because I wrote the notes.
So it's not
I think when you break the maintenance out of it and the
Yeah, it's
repairs out of it,
yeah.
there's a statutory requirement for a
Oh, my
level of
concrete,
maintenance on earthen dams, which has been variously adhered to and ignored. So that's one component of the number, and then there are repairs required, so you would wind up with some of it would be maintenance, but
Yeah, it seems like a $5,000 worth of maintenance and $10,000
Yeah, I
worth of
think
repairs
that's
might
probably-
be the split you might see, and that $10,000 is likely better suited in a warrant article,
Yeah.
depending on what they are. If they're long-term repair, like they're something they're gonna do that's gonna be,
you set it for
5 to
50
10 years or whatever
Yeah.
worth of a fix, then that
Yeah.
seems like it's.
Does anytime we have a bloated budget line for something that's gonna happen in 1 year, next year we forget why it was that.
Right, yeah.
That high, it's just gonna go, oh, it was
Yeah.
same as last year.
Same.
That's what we spent last year.
Ben, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am?
Wasn't it a couple of years ago, wasn't the state supposed to come in and help take care of some of these dams in town?
Well, no, yes and no. What the state, no, Curtis had made arrangements with the Army Corps of Engineers, and they would come in. But they will do, we have never resolved who's paying for the portion of it we have to do. We have millions of dollars worth of work that actually needs to be done. And we've gotta pay for,
Was it there's some type of a grant or anything out there?
no, the grant that they have is to breach all dams. There is a, that is the current, the current thinking is that every dam that exists on the planet negatively impacts snail darters, and they should all be removed.
Okay.
So, the
Impacts what?
snail darters is a little fish. I'm not kidding. Look it up,
Is it what?
snail darter. So anyway,
But I was
that's.
just
Okay.
curious because I remember
Yeah.
No,
the
you're-
thing being
Yeah.
thrown out
No,
there.
no, we tried, when we were less involved with less dramatic things, we thought this was a problem. But the grant, and there is it's called the Dam Something Bureau that makes it sound like they're fixing dams, but they're actually tearing them down. It's-
Dam Bureau.
No, it was interesting, it was a case of doublespeak.
Well, I didn't know if that was something that could be done here.
If you let it go long enough, you can probably do that for free.
Let it go.
I think we're on that.
The state came and looked at one of our dams, they said, expect a report in a year, that's how understaffed we are. I said, oh, okay,
Yes.
we'll see you in a year.
Yeah, and that's.
Must be important.
Yeah, right, like,
So our time window
What are the fish gonna do in that time?
Throw
Well,
legs
the
and
dam's
walk
up there.
around.
Evolution.
Okay.
Okay.
Was there anything else, Steve, that?
no, that was just the warrant articles.
Okay.
There may be more hidden.
Okay.
Can you just email me
might be.
those,
The cat?
please? And I'll make sure John, or somebody wants to email John or let him know that those two items in particular,
The dam and the building maintenance?
yep, we're looking to
I'll find
move
those
them
that are
potentially,
available.
some portion of them to, warrant articles.
Okay.
Matt has a thought.
Dam maintenance.
That
Perhaps it's
That's my pet. That's her.
repairs or rebuild for the 98 cap loader. I remember from the extent of stuff he was talking about, that sounded pretty much like an overhaul to extend its life to the capital.
That would be another good candidate.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what the list
Yeah,
of
you wanna
things
do
said,
hoses and
but if you want
valves
to, do a
Lots of
rebuild,
stuff, yeah.
Something that's gonna last you 5 to 10 years. So yeah, put that one on there for him too, whoever's sending that message to him. It's the, line 328,
Did you volunteer to do that?
some portion of that, potentially into a warrant article.
Just wanna make sure.
Along with
Anything else?
don't think so.
Alright, so we have the, transfer station recycling center, I don't see any notes on that, so is that
That
remain
number
unchanged?
barely changed a little bit for a month.
Okay.
Okay.
Alright, so it appears that there's nothing to go over there, is there anything you wanna point out, Jeremy, that might have changed that we're not seeing? Since last time we looked at this, or no?
I don't remember exactly what changed off the top of my head. It went from 195,059 to 195,524.
Oh, okay,
Probably the insurance or something.
Yeah, I think John might have had the wrong number or something.
okay.
For the transfer station? Oh.
Yeah.
Are we gonna hire a superintendent?
No.
So,
He's splitting it.
Any other questions on the, transfer station? Okay. Year-to-date budget versus actual, I haven't actually had a chance to look at that at all. So if anybody, has any comments or thoughts on that they'd like to discuss, I have nothing to discuss.
You're safe.
You're saying,
What's the printout of that, what's the printout date on that, last week?
12/8.
12/8. How we doing on the bottom line?
50%, 16% left.
well, hold
Sixteen
on,
percent left on the true bottom line?
there's water and sewer at the end, so.
Good, that should be
yeah, good.
just about
Two
right.
pages in.
Final bills for
I would say
December.
cookies because the water and sewer.
Encumbrances.
I don't think we have a lot, we have some encumbrances, but we don't have a lot.
We were talking about the emergency management. They have that set up where their funds go into the expendable trust fund at the end of the year.
Yep.
Should we be doing that with like building maintenance money in general? Rolling them into the expendable trusts?
You have to establish those funds. So by law, you actually have to establish the fund to do that.
Is that different than the ones that we would have? Like
Um,
there's an expendable trust.
So you're talking about leftover operating budget funds going into capital reserve funds.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't work that way. So essentially, those funds that are left over at the end of the operating budget season aren't available until the audit is done on those funds. And then those funds can then be used to either buy down the tax rate, and that's about it, pretty much, right? You
Buy
can
down
buy-
Or you
warrant
can just
articles.
leave them in your fund
Yep,
balance.
and you
Or
can leave it in
warrant
your fund
articles.
balance.
Or you could put whatever.
Yes, you can take fund balance money and use them for warrant articles, and if your warrant article is funding a capital reserve account, you could use your fund balance for that.
So.
But you'd have to wait for that process to take place. Am I correct in saying that?
You
Correct.
should.
Yeah.
So then you decide,
No, yes,
like,
you can.
so in the specific case of Troy this year, with our audits, which are current through 21, Jeremy?
Yeah, they're starting 22
They
tomorrow.
start in 22 tomorrow. So we've had surpluses and for the last several years. And we the select board put $200,000 against the tax rate. That leaves us with slightly under 5% cash in the bank, or on the books.
Not so much in pay.
4.7%. The recommendation is on the low side 5% and on the high side 17%. Against a rainy day. Well, of course, if there really and truly was the rainy day, which we can't even define what that would be, there would be other places for us to pull that cash from. So the argument that we've consistently made since I've been there is if you raised and appropriated more money than you used, you should give it back to the people you took it from.
Yes.
And so that's why we've erred to the lower side.
And that 4.7% is only the audited fund balance, right?
Correct.
So you have unaudited years that may have more than that.
22, 23, and then we'll have 24.
Yep.
And the reality is, where we have a cash flow problem every December because of the county tax bill, somebody has to go and sign for a CAN note, which is essentially a short-term line of credit to cover it until the taxes come in.
And that's only because you cannot spend any of the unaudited funds,
Correct.
regardless of the situation. So once our audits are caught up, and you're hanging on to, let's say, 10% or
Right.
whatever, then potentially you won't have that money crunch in December because you have that 10% you can just spend out of that, and then
Correct.
replenish that when the
Correct.
tax bills are paid.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Borrow it from yourself.
Yeah, you're borrowing it from yourself at 0% as opposed
Right.
to, well, whatever your interest rate in your account is.
It just seems like the building maintenance line in general is something you have a good year and you don't use much of it, you have a bad year and you use 3 times that amount.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we could have a warrant article to put some amount of money from surplus up to a certain amount into there is a fund, the
It is the buildings.
building maintenance fund
Yeah,
or something.
it's
Yeah.
up, yeah. It's
No, it's just
specific.
general building
Yeah,
maintenance.
so you could say, we would put up to $20,000 from the 2024.
So that's a
But
rainy
you're not
day
gonna,
fund.
but the problem you have there, Steve, is you're not gonna get that money into that fund until after the audit's done in future time.
Right,
Which it would hopefully get there.
Yeah.
Although we've had.
Well, your audit should be wrapped up by June to August, somewhere in that time frame. Once you're back on track, you should be all done by then.
There should be no
Yeah.
reason to not,
Yeah.
once we're,
Yeah.
I mean, we've been hoeing through back audits and messed up books.
Yeah.
The 2021 is done, 22 started, 22 and 23, I don't wanna jinx it, but they should be reasonably straightforward audits.
Yep. And I think those warrant articles that are using surplus to fund a capital reserve account would be lapsing. So if you're not on track with your
Right,
audits and you don't expect your audit to be completed by the end of the year, don't do that. That way you do actually get the money, because
Right.
otherwise it would lapse and then you'd have to do it again next year.
right.
So, I mean, I guess you could note that it is a non-lapsing warrant article, but I can't remember.
Well,
the
now
rules
you're
on
making
that.
it so, now you're making it so complicated.
Uh-huh, agreed.
Oh, sorry, Sarah. Didn't
So-
mean to kick you.
So in a hypothetical situation, you've got a building maintenance line for the year or something, and you need more than that. Is that when you should tap your expendable trust fund?
You can't take it out.
You can't take it out unless there's an appropriation for it, and the appropriation happens at town meeting. Those are capital reserve funds. Now, if you had an
Okay.
actual revolving fund for building expenses, or you had a capital reserve fund that had the agents to expend as the select board or whoever, that could spend it in mid-year, then you could access those funds. But
But we've
Mostly.
we haven't sought that authority. The system we've got works relatively well at this point.
Okay. So you just, it's basically, if you have to do it, you have to do it.
Yeah.
Right, and we squeeze that out of someplace else.
The lights don't come on.
Okay, just
no, it's good. It's good thoughts, conversation.
not planning anything.
Oh, yeah, you are. I wrote down a whole bunch of stuff you're planning.
You got lots of big plans.
I'm planning to talk about it.
Okay, any other thoughts or comments about the 2024 year-to-date budget versus actual? Okay, public comment, city public here,
You,
I have,
selectmen's update?
yeah, sort of a selectmen's update. I've talked a lot in the meeting, but one thing that, we're pondering is the welfare budget. And we have been, fortunate in our welfare budget in Troy. And I don't think we wanna go back to we're not prepared to come back to you with a budget reminiscence of where it was 5 or 6 years ago.
Thank you.
And in fact, right at the moment, we've got 52% of our budget left.
you're welcome for the guidelines.
You know, we're happy, yes, thank you. Good work.
Just hand it out.
You're gonna get 10%.
And this, this has been an ongoing process to keep it under control. But when I talk to my friends on the Alder board in Manchester and my acquaintances on the Keene City Council, I'm not 100% sure how we're missing the boat. And
Don't jinx us.
well, I'm figure if I say it, we won't get jinxed.
Okay.
So we may come and ask you for a little more money for that, not because we really believe we need it, but because we don't wanna be, because I think
Yeah.
we all know that welfare is a top priority payment over, it exceeds payroll. So if we have legitimate requests that exceed what we budgeted, it has to come from someplace else. You can't deny a welfare request. And I'm not confident that we're gonna not get screwed here at some point.
So one thing is for sure is if you have a reputation for lackadaisical paperwork.
Oh, God,
and
yes.
The people feel like they don't really need to fill out much to
That's
get their money, then they will come pouring in.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
You're welcome.
They usually run away.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you require them to fill out every last stitch of it and provide the weekly updates with, you know, the fact that you've been out looking for a job and this and that, and you do all of that, you'd be
Right.
surprised how few wanna hang around.
Well,
And I don't know what these other departments are doing, but I have a feeling that's what you'll,
Well, I think,
You'll
and
find.
from what I've seen from dealing with at least Keene to a certain extent, you go, we would never pay that.
yeah, you're doing it to yourself. You're like,
Right.
this person's file is completely incomplete, but yet you're continuing to write checks. This is where we were 5 or 6 years ago.
Right.
And we got away from that, and that was,
Well, that's,
our
yeah,
problems
Ron,
were
but
solved.
it's still concerning. If I
Yep.
had a vote in Keene, I would be extraordinarily concerned about what's happened to their welfare budget.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know,
Well, that's why they want us to subsidize it.
well, yeah, we've fought,
We're not the only town either, by the way.
no, they've been trying to push it out, you know, so,
Are you
Well-
are you talking the here's your bill?
yeah,
Yeah,
Swansea got 'em
surprise.
too.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that was yeah.
We may wind up with a litigation line in
Mhm.
welfare because it's more, we feel it's important to litigate it and say, we are not paying this until a court of competent jurisdiction tells us we should.
Mhm.
Because again, it goes back to if you're gonna roll over for it, this won't be the last, this is the first.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
It also doesn't help that they want you to look the other way when somebody's not being honest.
They do, that's
And
correct.
they legitimately have asked that you just look the other way.
No,
No.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
no.
And
the
then
problem.
somebody is being honest and gets denied.
yeah, we are being honest, it's denied, that's correct.
It's BS.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, that was,
Okay.
that part I like to over on.
We'll wait with bated breath for
Yes.
the new
Sorry.
welfare budget.
I have long legs, I'm sorry.
The only other thing actually before I ask for an adjournment here is, Alan, is there any comments you wanted to make on this guy
Yeah,
here?
just a reminder, about terms coming up. Now, Adam, you're set, right? You're not,
Correct.
okay. So we need to find somebody to run for a 3-year term to replace Adam. Matt, you still thinking about it?
So far, it looks like I'll be
Say again?
running. So far, it looks like I'll be running again.
Okay, good. And Al, your 1-year appointment is going to run out, and that will become a 3-year term on the next ballot.
Wonderful.
Would you be running?
That's a probability.
Okay, please think about it between now and next month.
Okay. No pressure.
None whatsoever.
All right.
Well, you have to
Just
sign up
think-
next month, so.
But time is running short. If you decide not to, we have to go out and
Okay.
recruit.
All right.
So, yeah, but no pressure.
What's the date for declarations?
Oh, yeah, what's the date for declarations? Alan?
Declaration,
Yeah.
oh, declaration.
Yeah.
Declarations.
I
Declarations.
don't know
Where are we
offhand.
doing that?
It usually is usually starts in the middle of January, runs to around the end of January,
I think
but
we
it'll be
could
published.
end of the
Okay.
year, I think.
Yeah, it should be on the municipal calendar.
Probably.
Get it somewhere. Anyway,
Yeah.
I think
Um,
mine is.
yeah, so we'll let you know. on that when you gotta put your name in. That's what the declaration is.
Alright.
Declaring your candidacy.
Yes, there you go. That was what I was looking for.
Is that
Real
it?
important.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting of the budget committee.
Second.
So moved.
Alan second.
He just seconded it.
We just moved on.
Let's go.
I made it, he seconded
Oh,
it.
okay.
It was just reversed.
All right,
You
all
like
those in
them
favor?
apples?
Aye.
Opposed?
They wanna leave.
Do you want to vote?